Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.
KHJ Los Angeles.
Portions of the day's programming are reproduced by means of electrical transcriptions or tape recordings.
It's Monday night, folks. That means it's time for 87 Sports Fans Live here on...
Nice intro, by the way, my friend.
You like that? On latenightsportsradio.com. Guaranteed to be slightly more competent than the Chicago Bears coaching staff.
Slightly.
But only slightly. How you doing? I'm Keith Grief from 87sportsfans.com, joined forever in radio sports talk history by my partner in crime, Stephen Taylor. How are you, sir?
I'm doing better. I am finally healthy after my severe illness from last week, but I still have a slight cough, so I will try to muffle it as best I can if it hits me during the show.
Well, I want to talk to you now for real quick before we get into it. Let's talk about DraftKings.com. Millionaires are being made all season long at DraftKings.com, America's favorite one-week fantasy football site. One-week fantasy means no season-long commitments. Play whenever you want. Got an injured player? No problem. At DraftKings.com, it's like a new season every week, so you're never stuck with the same players. Pick your team in minutes, and you could be on your way to winning huge cash. This season, one listener turned $10 into $5,000. Another turned $2 into $10,000, and a new millionaire has been crowned nearly every week this season at DraftKings.com. You could be next. Imagine winning $1 million in one day just playing fantasy football at DraftKings.com. Get free entry into their $100,000 fantasy football contest this weekend, where first place takes home $10,000. Head to DraftKings.com now and enter promo code Spreaker to play for free. DraftKings.com. Bigger events, bigger winnings, bigger millionaires. Enter Spreaker for free entry now at DraftKings.com. DraftKings.com. That's DraftKings.com.
Do you know who could use DraftKings.com? This guy who has Carson Palmer as his stud quarterback, who is now out.
What happened to Phillip Rivers?
Phillip Rivers he had those good weeks, but then the last couple times I started him, he was garbage. I mean, that last game he played was horrendous against the Dolphins.
And now...
So I was starting Palmer, and I was like, hey, he's been cranking it up, and he had a great start to yesterday, down with the knee injury.
My fantasy.
So for somebody like me, who usually at this point in the season loses all of his stud players to injuries, a site like DraftKings.com would come in very handy.
So you're the curse, pretty much, is what you're saying.
I'm the curse. Any player that gets drafted on my team, I apologize right now. I am the second coming of the Madden curse.
The stew, the curse of stew.
The curse of stew.
Disco stew.
That's right.
Yeah.
I still have 2 bowling balls that say Disco Stew is the name.
So we'll save the rest of the NFL talk for the NFL Hour with Jim Sarantias from thefantasygreek.com. That's coming up at the top of the hour. Let's start off this program with some good old-fashioned NBA talk. And when I say old-fashioned, I mean we're talking about the Toronto Raptors. In first place, there is nothing old-fashioned about this. Let's just be honest about it, folks. Last season, when Kyle Lowry was signed that deal to stay in Toronto, I loved that signing, not because I think Kyle Lowry is the second coming end-all be-all point guard, but Toronto is one of those middle-of-the-road franchises where it's very easy for a franchise like that to get stuck in the proverbial 500s. You know what I mean? And to see them have a season where they seem to be on the uptick, and they had a player that performed well for them enter free agency and choose to come back, I thought was really just fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't hurt that they're in the division they're in, too.
Right.
I mean, I give them a lot of credit because, 6-1 is not easy in this league because you are playing against professional teams. But mind you, their 6 wins came against Orlando, OKC, minus Durant. And I think Westbrook was still – no, he might have been out for that game. And then Boston, Washington, and Philly. So it's not a super massive start to their season. Like, I'll be interested to see what they do this Thursday against Chicago. But it is, it's nice to see. It really is, I have to admit. And I believe that we all, during our NBA preview, pretty much expected them to be pretty high in this division.
I think Bob Sullivan picked them to win the division.
I think he did too, yeah.
If I remember correctly. But I like I said, I like Lowry. I like Patrick Patterson. I like the center, Valanciunas. DeMar DeRozan is probably one of the more under the radar kind of players. Took a while for him to kind of develop there, but I think he's developed into a nice two guard there. And then off the bench with Grievous Vasquez and Amir Johnson. Don't forget about Psycho Hansborough.
Yeah. Oh, I love Hansborough. He's crazy, but man, that guy works.
If you don't like Tyler Hansborough, you don't have to like him. If you don't respect him, you're un-American. There, I said it.
And, he got a lot of crap when he was playing for Indiana during those playoffs where he was pushing people to the ground and kind of playing old school basketball, like what we grew up watching in the 80s. You couldn't have watched those Pistons-Bulls matchups nowadays where they were throwing Pippen to the ground, or the classic Lakers-Celtics where McHale sent Rambus flying. That would have been an automatic ejection nowadays. Where back then, I don't even think it was a flagrant. I think it was just a foul. That's what we grew up watching, and that's how Hansborough plays. And he gets a lot of crap because of the modern game, but to me, I love it.
He plays all Keithed out, if you will. As far as,
but now
he's that
staying in this division. I have to ask you. I knew I didn't expect the Knicks to be good, but 2-6.
Yeah, you look at. I gotta look a little deeper here into the Knicks because they're 28th in points per game. They're just not scoring. So now you turn your attention, and obviously everybody knows about Phil Jackson, and Derek Fisher coming over and trying to run some version of the triangle. The triangle does not get you 28th overall in points. It just doesn't.
No.
So you can talk about all you want about whether Carmelo Anthony is the problem or whatever. Carmelo's scoring 20 a game. He's going to get his.
Yeah.
So what's everybody else doing? You look at, as far as points per game, Shumpert is the second leading scorer at just over 13 points a game. Amari Stoudemire is back up, averaging 12.3 points per game. And Tim Hardaway Jr. at 10. J.R. Smith, 7.7. And his PER, or player efficiency rating, is just over 15. 15 is always the average with that stat. So a more telling stat to me is Carmelo Anthony only coming back at a 14.6. If you believe in all those metrics, like everybody knows I do.
Of course.
Carmelo Anthony's shooting 38% from the floor.
Yeah.
38%. He's shooting 36% from behind the arc. So something's got to give there, and they'll get better. He's not going to shoot that for the whole season. It's early. It's like freaking out over the Cavs. Are you freaking out over the Cavaliers? And we are having connection issues with Steven, so I will save that question for when I can get him back. But people that are flipping out over the Cleveland Cavaliers, clearly you don't understand how this works. Because nobody takes you can't tell me they'll never admit this out loud, but nobody takes the NBA regular season seriously until Christmas Day is the accepted value. I will say it's even later than that, probably somewhere in January. And then you have the April race for everybody to get on board and figure it out, and, if they can make the playoffs and everything. And then playoff basketball is fantastic, but it's one of those things where November and December basketball just doesn't mean much. It just does. If you beat somebody in November, it does not mean that you will beat them in April. It never usually works out that, unless it's a team that's a perennial contender like the Spurs or the Heat. I'm not ready to say the Cavs are in that, even though they do have all the talent. But it's it's one of those things where what happens now has no bearing. Okay, sorry, Heat fans that are all impressed with the 5-2 start. Okay, you may hold on to that, and I think you may even be a contender in the Eastern Conference, but the wheels may fall off at this point. Do you think Atlanta is going to average 101 points the rest of the season? I don't. I don't see them averaging.
Hello.
Oh, are you back?
I'm back. I don't know what happened. I had something happen with my internet.
Oh, it's you just relocated offices, so.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I just moved into a new house, so I apologize to our listeners. Something must have kicked off with my internet. I'm gonna have to go check the connection on our next break, our timed break.
Blame the cat.
No, the cat had nothing to do with it. Well, she might have. I don't know where she is.
So,
Fighting the wires.
yeah,
I know.
So, as you faded off into internet oblivion, I was asking you, are like the Knicks will get better. You know, they're bad now. Melo's not going to shoot as bad as he's shooting right now the whole season. That team will get better. It's like people flipping out over the Cavaliers. Are you flipping out over the Cavaliers being 3-3?
No, but I know that they have the potential to be great. I don't know if the Knicks do.
Well, okay, let me poke the bear here. Why do you know the Cleveland Cavaliers have the potential to be great?
Because everybody knows that LeBron James is the best player on planet Earth. He just is. He's not only a great scorer, but he's a team player, as he showed tonight where he had a triple-double. But I just have faith in the fact that they have decent supporting staff. Kyrie Irving, he's having some growing pains learning how to play with two superstars like LeBron and Love. But Kevin Love is the real deal. I think he is the best accompanying player that LeBron James has ever had. I think he is the kind of player that will help LeBron become, maybe win multiple championships that he wanted to win in Miami. And now I know they won 2, but that team should easily have won 4 championships with who they had. But they just never seem to really gel. I see that happening with this crew. I see him and Kevin Love being just the perfect match. And, I mean, you could even tell in their losses that there was a lot of potential. It's just the chemistry wasn't there yet. Which, I mean, you have a new coach, you have a new player, you have superstars that are used to being superstars on their own teams trying to figure out each other's game. And I think they're all starting to get it now that it's LeBron's team and everyone needs to play off him. Either he is going to be, he's not going to be shooting well, so he's going to pass a lot and you're going to need to pick up the offense, or he's going to be on fire and you need to just be a support player that night. And that's kind of the give and take with LeBron. And I can see the players around him having that kind of relationship. So I really, as of what I've seen so far from Cleveland, I'm not sure they're going to get to the finals this year. I think a lot of it, once again, depends on how healthy the Bulls can stay and Derrick Rose, because they are playing phenomenal to start the season. But I think in the next few years, once everything gets settled and everyone learns how to play together, I think they're going to be a juggernaut.
Yeah, you look at it; they're 30th overall in assists per game, and that speaks to chemistry. I mean, that if you look, I look at that stat, and when a team is bad at that, then they just don't know how to play with each other. That's the way. That's my take on that stat. They're 17th in scoring, but they're 21st in points allowed. They're giving up 101 a game. That will get better because basketball. Mm-hmm. It's underrated how much defense in basketball is team related.
Oh, absolutely.
People think of defense as just can you check your man? Can you stay in front of him? Can you get your hands up and block or steal at the appropriate time? But in the NBA and even in college too, when you get into those advanced levels of basketball, when you get into rotations and double teams and defending pick and rolls and things like that, it takes a lot of orchestration to play good team defense. And
absolutely. I agree.
When you have a new